Janet George. So, so in terms of the rules of our process here, I have to remind you, for the record, that you are still under oath, the same oath that you took at the beginning. So you still have the obligation to share only the truth and to conduct yourself with dignity and respect. So we may now continue with your testimony. I think maybe before I hand you back to Commissioner Vidot, I just wanted you to clarify whether the performance appraisal that Commissioner Tirant made reference to earlier on is something you are aware of, or you are not aware of that appraisal?
I'm not aware of, sir.
You are not aware of
Yes.
that appraisal. But are you aware of any findings that were made against you regarding, or adverse findings regarding your performance as Commissioner of Prisons?
In regards of appraisal to my way of performing, no. I'm not aware of. And I didn't know if it exists.
Okay. Okay. I think that's the clarification I wanted you to make. Commissioner,
Yes,
Vidot,
Mr. George.
can continue.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier on that your officers were given training, okay? And we also indicated to you certain lack of training that we discovered when we were when other officers were testifying for this commission. And even Mr. Nicola, he said that for the Prison Act, okay, he himself had to go and acquaint himself with the act. But you maintain that you were giving the training on the Prison Act?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, if that was the case, Mr. Nicola was one of the high-ranking officers of the prison in charge of security. Why would he say that he had to go and acquaint himself with the Prison Act?
I will not know, sir.
Okay.
Maybe just as a follow-up, maybe comment, remark, or question, it's not just Mr. Ivan Nicola. It's several high-ranking prison guards who appeared before us here, and they said they were never oriented or inducted on the Prisons Act itself. But perhaps maybe you might want to enlighten us to what aspects of the Prisons Act did you train them on?
Normalement, le Prison Act, moi y'en a bout qui m'ont fait, et moi y'en a, et si à Luina, il y a un sadi moun qui a un bon component pour prison, qui a in train ban mamai lo sabot.
Normally, with regards to the Prison Act, there is the part that I did myself, and then there's the part of CI Rina also, which is a very important component that we have, and she is responsible for training the officers as well.
Okay.
Si les officiers pedi ils pas train, ou bien ils pas contre Prison Act.
If the officers are saying that they have not attended training or do not know the Prison Act,
Moi-même, moi pas connais qui m'a pour questionner, c'est moi pour questionner les autres même,
I myself do not know who to question, if themselves,
ou bien si moi pour questionner ça ban commissionnaire auparavant qui pas expose autres avec Prison Act.
or if I should question the former commissioners before me who had not exposed them to the Prison Act.
Et les autres qui connaissent, les autres qui conscients, les autres peuvent venir travailler prison.
They knew, they were aware that they were coming to work at the prison.
Yeah, I have to redirect you because my question is, what aspects of the Prisons Act did you train them? What are the elements in the Prisons Act that you trained your officers?
Là, pour gete tout ça speaking from chapter 1, this is chapter 47.
When you look at it, every aspect that there contains in the Prison Act from chapter 1 to 47.
Yeah, we want you to tell us.
Pareil, si nous pouvons le prison lui-même, tout component de la prison.
If we are
Dans sa Prison Act.
to talk about the prison itself, every component of the prison is in the Prison Act.
Si nous pouvons ça ban premier chapter from 1 to 5.
If we are to talk about the first 5 chapters,
You mean sections? Sections.
Oui, oui, ban section.
these sections,
Il peut payer les autres standing as a prison officer.
it's purely about them, their standing as a prison officer,
About l'appointement
their appointment,
et qui s'y paye pour l'ordre.
from whom the CP takes orders,
Et les autres et qui sont pour l'ordre.
and the officers from whom do they take orders.
Ben quelque chose qu'ils devraient faire, ben quelque chose qu'ils pas devraient faire.
Things that they are supposed to do, things that they are not supposed to do.
Quelque chose qui prisonniers devraient faire, prisonniers pas devraient faire.
Things that prisoners are supposed to do and things that they are not supposed to do.
Puis malo ban offenses aussi qui gagnent trouvé dans là-dedans.
It's purely based on the offenses also that are found in the Act.
C'est ça.
That's it.
So the reason I'm asking this question is for you to paint a picture for us so that we can understand the scope and the content of the curriculum which you developed to train your guards. So I'm not asking you to tell me some things that are in the Prisons Act, but I would like you to. I want to come out of this hearing with a picture of the scope of the curriculum. On a daily basis, I teach myself. So when someone asks me, what are you teaching on this subject, I will be able to say, these are the elements of the law that I'm teaching. So that's what I'm asking you. That is perhaps that will help us to make a fair judgment as to whether these senior officers who came before us and said they never were inducted on the Prisons Act, and some said, yeah, we also asked them questions to test their knowledge of the Prisons Act, and we almost formed a view that they don't know most of the basic elements. So your answer needs to take us through the curriculum. So that's why I'm asking that question. So maybe you might want to answer that question again, if you are able to share with us the core elements of that curriculum which you use to train your guards so that they understand the Prisons Act.
Si je peux redire, pour dire, moi, le temps, les moniteurs de prison, je ne fais pas beaucoup de temps. Et si un senior vient là, moi, je suis un autre senior, moi. Qui m'a dit, pour dire, je ne pas connais rien qu'il y a pour faire de prison.
I would like to reiterate that my time in the prison was not that long, and if a senior officer, being a senior officer, how come you say that you do not know these things?
Mr. George, I think the question that Mr. Chairman is asking you is what did you, because you said you trained them, so we wanted to know that aspect of the training that you gave them. Not what about whether they've been there for a long time or other. there had been other CPs. We do realize, because knowledge is very poor, so it could be from previously they didn't have training, but you said you provided knowledge. We wanted to know what kind of training, the aspect of the training that you gave.
Pareil, moi, je travaille au curriculum discipline.
For example, I worked on the curriculum of discipline.
Et avec l'aide d'inspecteur Tossi.
With the help of the Inspector Tosi.
Et nous faisons aussi, vous dites, dans l'état, pour faire des drills.
We made sure that they had time for their drills.
Pour développer discipline dans ce qui appelle self-discipline, à cause de n'a pas.
For them to be able to develop self-discipline, which was something that they did not have.
Après, les autres trainings qui ça composent quoi qu'ils devaient connaître, qu'ils devaient faire des prisons, encore il y a sa régulation.
And then trainings with regards to what they were supposed to know and what they were supposed to do in prison, again pertaining to the regulation.
Et ça est incorporé avec sa Prison Act.
And this is incorporated with the Prison Act.
Et training qui devait take care of prisoners.
Trainings about how they were supposed to take care of inmates.
Qui pour si ils ont position par des positions et la façon qu'ils devaient emmener.
How to remove them from one location to another and how they are supposed to be brought during this transfer.
Et ça m'a aussi beaucoup d'aide avec la police.
And this I received a lot of help from the police.
À cause des officiers, eux même pas aware of sa qualité de training. Même quantité de temps.
The officers themselves, they were not aware of those particular trainings, even if they were there for quite some time.
À cause pas exposed.
Because they had not been exposed to these things.
Et il y en a plusieurs trainings qui sont gagnés, qui sont même gagnés certified, gagnés certificate in regards to the training.
And there are
proof.
Several other trainings that they received as well, whereby they were issued with a certificate as well, and I have that as proof.
Okay. So, maybe before I ask this question, let me ask one that is probably straightforward. Do you have a copy of the curriculum?
Yes.
That you use to train them?
Yes.
Okay.
You get it from HR office.
And you note that. So I just want you to respond to this observation. Let's put it as an observation. The observation that says you were much more concerned with discipline, right? That, prison guards must be disciplined, and prison guards must enforce discipline in the prison, and the prisoners must be disciplined. And you were less concerned about the rights of prisoners.
No, to
and can I finish? The rights of prisoners and the duties of prison guards towards the inmates and the rights of prison guards. How would you respond to that observation?
Non, le côté discipline, moi, pour d'accord avec vous, à cause de cette fondation que nous peux build là.
When it comes to discipline, I will agree with you because this is the foundation that we were building upon.
Yep.
Et le côté des autres duties, ils étaient déjà aware of.
And with regards to their duties, they were already aware of that.
Et nous faisons this refresher là.
So we did only refresher course on the matter.
À cause de totalement aware of je travaille à cause de tu peux fonctionner, je travaille mon vini.
Because they were
pas fonctionner.
Totally aware of their duties because they were functioning before I came. They were not functioning.
discipline is the foundation, but is it the only foundation?
Il passe cette fondation. Il y a quelque chose tous les jours.
It's not just the foundation, it's an everyday thing.
I'm asking this question because there is an observation that says you sought to maintain discipline, and in the process you disregarded and violated other people's rights.
Non, ça est totalement faux.
No, this is totally false.
Okay. Can you tell me what you know? What does the Prisons Act say about weapons, in carrying of weapons in the prison, or the use of weapons in the prison?
The use of weapons, je ne sais pas pour tout le monde qui question, qui section il y en bas là, mais c'est un officier prison, il est capable de carry weapon.
The use of weapons, I would not really recall the specific section that talks about that, but I know that a security or prison officer has the right to carry a weapon.
What else?
Et police qui ça, ils ont le droit capable de servir weapon aussi.
Moreover, they have the right to use the weapon as well.
Et il dépend des circonstances qu'ils ont qu'à servir sa weapon.
That would depend on the circumstance for them to be able to use that weapon.
Okay.
Bon, pas pour tout romazine 100%, ça va une circonstance, mais c'est des bandes cas quand un démoni sauvé, il vient de donner warning pour pas continuer là où qu'à servir weapon.
I don't really recall all the specific circumstances that allows to use a weapon, but I think I know that if someone escapes or abscond, then even though receiving warning not to do so, then in that instance you can.
Après, s'il y a violence, beaucoup de violence dans la prison,
if there's a lot of violence in the prison,
les officiers sont capables de servir weapon.
Officers can use weapons.
Mais c'est moi mentionné un critique qui mon connaît weapon existait.
But I had a fear, but that even though I knew weapons existed,
la prison mon tout quoi vous dit weapon il devrait être servi en dehors prison et c'est ça qui peut passer et qui m'a fait informer les officiers de temps en temps.
And I believe that weapons should be used off prison ground, not inside the prison, and that's something that I always try to pass through my officers.
Et nous sommes des ans dans weapon AK-47.
We had weapons previously, AK-47.
De mon temps, mais c'est moi ça nous peut servir de perimeter prison.
In my time, but this was we were using this for the perimeter of the prison.
Let's do this again in a different way. I am your student. I would like you to inform me or educate me about the principles in the Prisons Act which regulate the use of weapons inside the prison.
I think I had already spoken on that.
I'm asking the question because you have not. You have told me things that are general, and if we leave it there, then we might draw the conclusion that the training was general, because what the senior guards told us here on the use of weapons was very general. So I'm trying to dig deeper so that you can have the opportunity to tell us as a commission that this is what I taught them. And they are not telling the truth, but this is what I taught them. So and these are basic things in the Act. So what would be the principles that regulate the use of weapons in your prison?
Mon déjà fini mention de toi. raison à cause un weapon il devait pas servir.
Already mentioned a few reasons as to why the weapons should be used in prison.
Et un pour nous garder ban prisoner faire secure qui sont pas sauvés.
Another is to also guard the prisoners to make sure that they do not abscond.
Correct. So those are the circumstances under which, things like firearms can be used. But are you also aware, which is probably what I was expecting to hear from you, that first you only use firearms when it is necessary?
Oui, ça okay.
Yes, that is okay.
Yeah. I remember we are in a class now. You are my teacher. So there's a way that you are supposed to teach me so that when I graduate from your class, I understand what you have taught me. So the prison act that you are teaching the guards is structured in a certain way so that anyone reading it will be able to understand. So the first principle is that you should use it when it is necessary, which is what you were describing, that when there's violence, there's this.
Oui, mais ça même ça.
What other principles?
Mon papa m'a dit là, mais c'est moi ça me saban nécessaire pour servir, là na haban quelque chose qui m'ont mentionné.
I would not recall, but I know that it's what I've just stated. It's circumstances whereby it necessitates the use of weapons.
What other principle in the Prisons Act which you were training the guards on? Necessity, yes. We need to move past that one. What is the other one? Is there any other, or that's the only?
Il n'y a pas beaucoup clause le use of weapon.
There's not that much clause on the use of weapons.
There is. You use weapons, number one, when it is necessary. Number two, you use firearms in a proportionate way. So you use force in a proportionate way. But let's move to the other one. Let's talk about searching prisoners or searching the prison. What does the Act say about? What are the procedures for searching?
Ça acte because beaucoup lo qui m'a hier pour search un prisonnier, il pas dit qui m'a hier devrait pas search un prisonnier, mais c'est moi sur la régulation pour dire il y a une façon de faire qui m'a hier pour search un prisonnier.
On the act, it talks about about the search on a prisoner, but in the regulations it will give more details as to the manner of which you have to conduct that search.
Okay. Tell us.
Normalement, search un prisonnier, like un zone, il search un zone.
Normally, to conduct a search on a prisoner, it has to, if it's a man, the prisoner is a man, it has to be another man as an officer conducting the search.
Si c'est madame qui vous search un prisonnier.
If it's a lady, then a lady officer will search the prisoner.
La loi pas dit rien si est madame, il devait pas search un homme.
The law does not say anything about if a lady officer should search a man.
Unless je connais, moi pas connais, mais seulement mon service discrétion que un homme il est search par un homme, une femme il est search par une femme.
Unless you know of the matter, and I do not, but I use my discretion that a man should search on a man and a lady should search on a lady.
Okay. Et façon search, même qualité search que la police search, prison officer aussi il search.
And how the search is conducted is the same way as the police officers conduct the search.
Ça raison que moi tu fais les officiers de la police viennent train moi ban officiers in regards of search.
That is why I had the officers from the police force come and train my prison officers.
To search.
About search.
Et par n'importe qui search il va faire.
And like any other search is conducted, it's done.
Nous besoin de l'endroit droit côté nous pour ça du monde.
We have to look at the area, the location of the where we are going to search that individual.
Et nous besoin get surrounding lesquels qui là lesquels qui pas là.
Surrounding, who is present, who is not.
Et from there nous search sa prisonnier ou ha officer qui involved qui fait un crime.
From there, we search the prisoner or the officer who has been involved in a crime.
And okay, let's move to the other one. Then we'll come back to that. What about medical care for inmates? Healthcare for inmates.
In regards of health
When
care,
an inmate wants or needs or says they need medical attention.
ça y est son droit,
That is one of his rights.
right to health care. Ça y est quelque chose qui nous fait beaucoup emphasis là, la prison.
That is something that we emphasize a lot at the prison.
Si il claim pour dire malade,
If that person claims to be sick,
nous fait si pour dire qu'il refer avec clinique, non clinique la prison.
we make sure that that individual is referred to the clinic. We have a clinic at the prison.
Et from there, il gagne access avec docteur et aussi nurse.
And from there, that individual is assessed by the doctors and the nurse.
Et si ça docteur fait une recommandation qui ça dit mon besoin à l'hôpital,
And if the doctor recommends that that individual be brought to the hospital,
et il m'a droit as un commissionnaire ça l'état pour me faire ça officier ça prisonnier à l'hôpital.
it's my right as commissioner during that time to have that person brought to the hospital.
Ça y est clé pour un prisonnier qui est malade
This includes sick inmates,
ou soit s'il y a un contagious disease la prison,
or if there are any contagious disease at the prison.
quand nous fait si qui il gagne refer avec government health center.
Whereby we make sure that that individual is referred to the government health care center.
Can I just correct on something? Because you say it's your right to send them to see a doctor or to seek medical attention. It's not a right, it's your duty.
Oui, mon duty.
Yes, my duty.
Okay, is there anything you want to, or I can ask a question now?
Yes.
So, let's say I am one of the, remember earlier you were talking about inmates prisoners being in different groups. There are those who are rowdy, and there are those who are disciplined. Right. Let's say I am one of those prisoners who, is rowdy. And let's say I've been accused as a prisoner of being disorderly or breaking one of the rules in prison. How do you deal with that situation? A report has been made to you that inmate justice has broken this law or broken this regulation in prison. How do you deal with that situation?
Normalement,
or how do you discipline me?
Normalement, s'il y a une médecine, il fait quelque chose against la loi prison.
Normally, if an inmate has done something against the law of the prison,
Il est identifié par un custodial officer. Si ça l'incident arrive de custody,
it is identified by the custodial officer if the incident had happened while the inmate was in custody.
et là, sa investigating officer, il monte docket pour sa prisoner.
And from there, the investigating officer mounted docket with regards to the prisoner.
Et là, il y a une masse d'évidence.
And their evidence are gathered.
Et s'il y a un exhibit, nous amassons exhibit aussi.
And if there are exhibits, we pick up those exhibits.
Et from
Correct.
there, il y a aussi questionné as un suspect.
And from there, that individual is questioned as a suspect.
Et après ça, un case gagne amené devant disciplinary panel.
And after that, a case is brought before the disciplinary panel.
And who makes up that disciplinary panel?
Il y a le prison même, nous-mêmes.
Us at the prison.
Okay.
Who sits on this panel? Who sits on this panel?
On the panel, il y a un chairman.
There's a
Après, il y a un
chairman.
secrétaire. Après, il y a un members. C'est moi, il y a un officer.
And then
Il prison officer.
Secretary, but they are, and a chairman, but they are prison officers.
It's a panel that alternates, or is it a panel that is consists of the same officers all the time?
Il consiste of same officer.
Consists of the same officers.
Mais seulement si involve un officer as witness, il pas pour qu'à sit de sa panel.
But if it involves an officer as a witness, he would not be able to sit on that panel.
Ou bien si you aussi involve as un autre component de sa case, il pas pour stand.
Or if that officer is involved as another person in that same case, then he or she would not be involved.
Just one more question.
Sure.
Can you give us the names of the officers who sat on that panel when you were CP?
CI Radegon, magazine CI Radegon.
I remember C.I. Radegon,
Donald Zialo is a rehabilitation officer.
a rehabilitation officer.
Je ne sais pas imaginer si c'est un counselor tout.
I do not recall if there is a counselor as well.
Et la restant, il y a les autres officiers. Je ne sais pas trop imaginer les autres non.
The rest are other officers. I do not really remember their names.
You done?
No, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm still heading somewhere with this question. So, let's say now you have called me before the disciplinary panel, and I report that I am sick. So you take me to the doctor. Is that correct?
Single call ça.
Si ou malade comme si. Normalement, ça qu'il fait, on mène ni côté docteur.
No.
S'il y a un
Si-
suspect.
Si ça dit mon call on the panel, par exemple, l'établi coup de panel, il dit pour dire mon malade.
I call in sick. Okay. Oui.
Okay. Yeah. Qui vous fait
Normalement, son case est supposé gagner envoyé par l'autre jour.
Normally, the case is supposed to be adjourned till another date.
Okay, so you take me to the doctor. Okay, then we get to the doctor. I ask the doctor to examine me, or the doctor says he or she wants to carry out an examination. Does that examination take place between me and the doctor, or me, the doctor, and the guard?
Normalement, examination docteur gagne fait avec docteur, sign mate avec un nurse.
Normally, the examination is done between a doctor, the inmate, and a nurse.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Between the doctor, inmate, and nurse, the examination
Inmate.
is done.
So the guard should not be there. Is that
No,
what you are saying?
no.
No.
Okay. Well, the prison doctor said there was a big issue there because the guards insist that they must be there because they think that the inmate is lying, that they are sick.
Mon papa comprend où là?
You told her that an inmate
Okay,
was
so
lying.
the doctor, your doctor, the doctor who worked with you there,
Yes.
said one of the major challenges is that the guards would insist that they must be present when the inmate is being examined.
Non, il pas ça mais rapporté que moi.
No, it was never reported to me.
Well, he said he did, but that's not what we're trying to test at the moment. I think on paper, because remember we were in a training, hypothetically speaking, on paper I would be able to understand you very clearly on disciplinary procedures, right? I would be able to understand you a bit clearer on my right to medical care. Right? But I am unable to understand if I were being trained. I'm unable to understand clearly what my duties and responsibilities are when it comes to use of weapons, firearms in prison. And I'm unable to understand what the procedures are with respect to searching. What I understood from what you said when you described procedures for searching and the principles for use of firearms, what I understood is the operations, the operational side of things. That this is what you are supposed to do to maintain security. What I didn't get is the regulation side of things. So there is the operation that you have to conduct with firearms, but there are rules that regulate you in using firearms as a guard. That is what also we understood when the guards came here, that they understand the operation side of how to use firearms, but the rules regulating how to use firearms, they don't know. And I'm seeing a...
It's them who did not want to find out.
Parce que normalement, les officiers de prison pas travaillent avec fusil à part, ça n'est pas les officiers qui travaillent avec AK.
Because normally the prison officers do not work with guns except for the Nepali officers who uses AK.
Yeah, maybe before you go further to explain, I would have agreed with you that the problem is those officers. But I would have agreed only if you had been able to tell me clearly what the rules regulating the use of weapons are. Because you told me the operations. You told me clearly the circumstances under which firearms are to be used. But you were unable to tell me the rules regulating the use of firearms. So I would have agreed with you if you had been able to tell me what the rules regulating firearms are. So at this point, I am unable to agree with you that the officers who said we don't know these regulations are necessarily it's their fault. It looks to me that either the information they were given was simply about the operations, the drill. This is what you were highlighting to me, the drills, the discipline, right? Which is important, by the way. But there's a regulation side of things. But let's move on. Do you think it is important for a prison guard to have a full knowledge of the law regulating the use of firearms?
Yes, definitely.
Why is it important?
À cause de servir un fusil, il y en a un fusil dans l'armerie de prison.
Because use gun, there are guns in the armory of the prison. You need to learn things about the guns.
Yes, but why? Why is it important to know the rules, the laws relating to guns? Why is it important?
But they have to, because it is a tool that they use to work with, so they must know how to use it.
I think
how
that
it is
the
used.
answer, AP, is so that you don't abuse those guns. You don't abuse those firearms. And in the process of abusing them, you end up violating the rights of people who are innocent.
Oui, zot supposé qu'on et c'est ça raison qui les demande vinn de prison. Man wa pour dire na eke, man wa pour dire na braina, man non-lethal weapon. Moi tu mets zot de training avec ban officers qui train weapon.
Yes, that is why when I came to the prison, I saw that there were AKs and non-lethal weapons as well, and that's why I had officers to give them trainings as to how to use those weapons.
It's correct. I think I'm unable to disagree with you that the training was given at this point.
Yes.
What I am questioning is the content of that training. Because I think for this commission, for society, for the law, it is important that you train someone how to use the gun, but you also train them to understand the regulations, the rules which govern the use of the gun.
Yes.
Because if you don't teach them about the rules and the regulations, they may end up abusing that gun. And in the process, you will violate rights of people who may be innocent. For example, if you start shooting because you are trying to stop one person, you start shooting, you may end up shooting someone who has nothing to do with what's going on, who is just walking. Possible, right? So that's why the law says you must use force that is proportionate. So that was my point, that I'm looking for evidence that shows that the content of the training you are talking about was comprehensive enough to educate the guards on the rules and regulations regarding the use of firearms. On searching, I'm looking for evidence that shows that the training you gave them went beyond, the techniques on searching, which is what you told me, the operations side of things. That if you want to search and make sure that the inmate is not hiding anything, this is how you do it. But what about the regulatory side? For example, which is, I didn't hear you addressing me when I kept on saying, what else? That you cannot search the cell of an inmate in the absence of the inmate. Or do you believe you can do it?
No, let me go back to the weapon. Après naval searching.
No, let's go back to weapon and then we'll go on searching.
Zot code, ban qui servi weapon de prison, zot pour connaître qui m'a possédé weapon imassé.
The ones that uses weapons in the prison, they would know how the procedure about how to use the use of weapons.
Training avec Inspector Mania.
Because they had received training from Inspector Mania.
And from the beginning until the end, les autres fire, zot connaît.
And from
the right moment, zot pour servir zot weapon.
The beginning till the end, until when they fire, they know what instances are they supposed to use it.
Mon parti fait ça en lesson de weapon.
Because I did not do the lesson on weapon.
Again, no search technique.
And again on the search techniques.
It was police officers. Qui assisted.
We were assisted by the police officers.
SP Marie avec SP Dacambra.
SP Marie and SP Dacambra.
Et sa training ti fait police academy et si mato les autres tout ban the theory après practical qui m'a les autres supposé faire.
And that training was done at the police academy, whereby they were taught the theory and practical aspects of it.
Okay, so you remember the first question we asked you was, what training about the Prisons Act did you provide? Because you are the one who said you did, and you were satisfied that they got comprehensive training. And then I said, what aspects of the Prisons Act did you train them? You told me the different sections of the Act, right? But I recall that one of the things that you shared with us was their duties, right? And you would be correct to train them about their duties using the Prisons Act, because that's the principle, that's the main legislation which provides for their duties. I am just having a difficulty now if you say you didn't train them on search, you didn't train them on use of weapons and firearms. So I'm wondering what you trained them.
Mon train zot police to ban offenses.
I trained
About act.
them more about the offenses under the Act.
À cause de Prison Act n'est pas composé qui moment même pas pour train ça ben maman là.
Because the Prison Act contains a lot of components that I myself would not be able to train all the officers on these components.
Et mon gars l'aide avec ma police officers pour être capable d'assister mon ban bout.
And I received help from the police officers for them to assist me on those parts.
So two quick things. The first is again an observation, right? Because when you are talking about offenses, you know, what they should do when these offenses are committed, it again creates that impression that your training was operational, was about discipline, which is important. But if you train people about operational details, but you don't train them on the rules regulating how to conduct those operations, then the training is not comprehensive. Then you mentioned the point about it's not your duty to, or you are not competent to train them on some of these aspects. That's very fair. And I would not have been asking you questions about these things if you had said in the beginning, look, I was not competent to train them on a lot of the key aspects under the Prisons Act, and I referred them somewhere else. Then the question would be different. It would be, what did you do to make sure that what your officers are being trained on is comprehensive enough? So I agree with you that it's not necessarily you who should be training them, but it is your duty to take initiatives and make sure that your officers have the requisite skills that they need to have. And you are not, just to clarify also, that you are not the only person responsible for that. Because I don't want you to go away with the impression that all the blame now is on you. You are not the only person responsible. There are other stakeholders in the system. But we are just, in this testimony, because you are the one before us, focusing on you and saying, as the Commissioner of Prisons, when you indicated as what your duties are, I got the impression that one of them would be to make sure that you are working with officers that are capable of keeping the prison safe and secure. And naturally, we would think about the skills development. But we can agree to differ on this one. I am getting the impression that the training was done, but the training was not as comprehensive as you are describing it.
I will not agree with you.
It's fine.
I will not agree with you totally. À cause moi, mon parti un commissionnaire qui peut se donner fusil, un prison officer dit il pète pas tout moi.
Because I was not a commissioner that would just hand a gun over to a prison officer and tell him to fire everywhere.
No, I think we have agreed to disagree.
Wait, et aussi, mon papa vous avait dit à cause un dit mon pas content, moi juste fouille l'oli. No.
I would never just say because someone, that person dislikes me, to just search on that individual.
Non, nous façon faire.
We have our way of doing things.
Nous connaissons à cause de nous fouille l'un dit mon, nous connaissons quand nous besoin servir un physique. Avant senior qui vient là pour dire autres pas gagne training, des autres parties qu'on est là. Mon pas ni connaît qui même pour dire autres. Mais c'est même pas pour dire ça, mon qu'on dit, mais seulement mon pas fait besoin des autres de prison. Les positions qui m'ont payé rien comme quoi pour dire prison tu le monde depuis là construit 2006 jusqu'à là.
And we know when to effect a search on an individual and when to fire a gun. These senior officers that came here before court, I do not know what to say about them. I will not use the word that you told me not to use, but it seems like I'm getting the impression that the prison, everything about the prison has fallen on my back since that it's been there since the beginning.
Actually, like she says, that she's responsible for everything since the construction of the prison. And I can assure you that we're not putting all the blame on you. Not at all. We're just trying to understand how the prison operates. And we've identified, even before you came, that there were issues, problems with the prison. Like we identified that remandees should not be in prison. Okay, we're not putting that blame on you because you have a prison, and then nowhere else you are told where to keep remandees, and they're sent to the prison. So you just receive them. But what we're trying to say that there were a lot of, but it doesn't rest all on you.
Oui, mais qui les autres peuvent faire comme si quoi tout ça va faire, il reste là moi.
No.
T'as des défaillances de prison, défaillances il beaucoup de prison.
The way you are doing it's as if everything is rested on me. There are a lot of weaknesses in the prison, a lot of weaknesses.
Maman vini mon c'est mon mieux.
No, but that's
came
exactly,
and I tried my best.
Exactly what we're saying. We recognize that there were things that were there even before you came. And even when you came, you were faced with challenges because like if remandees are sent to the prison for remand, that's not on you. As I said early on, I know that you brought that out in the criminal stakeholders meeting previously. You sat in that meeting and I sat in that meeting as well. And I said, yes, you brought it out. So it's not everything that is placed on your back. It's but we were trying to see the setup of the prison, the weaknesses that there were. Not necessarily everything attributable to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll hand over to you just now. I think it is about the point we are trying to test is when you say you gave them comprehensive training, then we expect you to tell us this comprehensive training. So if what you are telling us has big gaps, right, then we are unable to understand the comprehensiveness of this training.
Ça même commission là. On peut dans autres bandes dit monde qui train mon ban officers.
That's why the commission is there. I'm giving out the names of the individuals that trained my officers.
Et from there, vous avez connaître vous dit ça ban officiers qui train. Quoi qu'ils autres qui faire, quoi qu'ils autres pas capable faire, côté qui doit mettre police en phase.
From there you would know that these officers has been trained and what can be done, what areas can there be more emphasis on.
But
Okay.
Regarding searches, that's a training that you could have given because you're a police officer. You were a police officer and you're still a police officer. So there are ways of conducting searches. So you're aware of that.
Yes,
so
I'm aware.
It doesn't mean that somebody else, okay, you said other police officers helped you. But this is a training that you could have conducted yourself.
Mais c'est moi when it comes to theory and play deeper, moi tiens vous autres police academy vous autres guys autres full training. Mais c'est moi mon underground pe 10 autres trains autres qui m'a pour faire search.
But when it
Mon
came
zoé ou là de moi aussi.
to going deeper and theoretical part of it, I sent them to the police for more formation, but I was there on ground also giving from what I had as experience.
Okay, I think we have asked you questions about the curriculum. You have given us what you have given us. We will let it rest there. You can take it from me.
Okay. CP, just to clarify certain little things, yes. You see that one of the officers that came here, when we asked him questions about his SOPs, this senior officer told us that he had no SOPs. He didn't have any SOPs. And obviously, one of the SOPs that were required, like Commissioner Vidot just spoke about, is in searches. There was no SOPs as to how to conduct a search, apart from what you verbally tried to explain to them. But this was not on a written format where anybody could come and follow. You agree? You did your part, but it was the officers below you did not sort of support you in providing the SOPs to be able to carry out the...
Ma expliqué, M. Tira. Les gens viennent prison, mon premier question, moi c'était des SOPs. Chana units qui chana SOPs, which is normal. Et mon question encore, qui m'a prison qui peut fonctionner si n'a pas SOPs. Et mon mazine de ou les temps si besoin de SOP. Oh, les sables de SOP, qu'ils ont fait avec.
Just to explain
ou soit il n'a pas du tout. Ils ont dit soit une prison qu'un bol, qu'un papier. Mais moi mon save ni pour mettre toutes choses en place.
When I came to prison, I asked for the SOPs. I do not know. There were units that had SOPs, but most did not have. And the question that I ask is, where has all these SOPs been? If the previously commissioners before me did not make the SOPs, or they were just running the prison in a way that, like as if to say, with a ball pen and a paper, and not having proper SOPs in place.
SOPs, SOPs record office.
There was SOPs at the record office.
Pour dire, chaque unit a besoin de SOP.
And we know very well that each unit must have their SOPs.
Et record, tu fais son amendement de son SOPs, nous assise ensemble, nous avons fini travail de nos SOPs, ils ont envoyé dans l'office, nous fini rectified.
Records made their amendments with regards to their SOPs and was sent to my office for us to rectify. And
in regards of l'autre unit, nous tu peux c'est nous bien nous décider lui pour nous faire 10 autres. Les SOPs est important, il faut des assises, les faire les SOPs. Et moi, ensemble avec
other unit, together with CI Rina, I sat down with them and told them that their SOPs, it's important for them to have one.
Et nous travaillons des trois SOPs pour faire la security.
We worked on a few SOPs having to do with security.
À cause ça dit monde qui pense à security, il pense jamais SOPs.
Because the person that was in charge of security had never had an SOP.
Et c'est ça raison aujourd'hui prison est tombée à cause les cas prison c'était sécurité.
And that's why that's the reason why the prison the standard had fallen.
Because ça dit monde qui tient ça security. L'état motivé nos prisons il peut faire SOP.
The heart of the prison is the security. Is the person that was there before me responsible for security. Did he do any SOP? What did he do? He was doing. Sorry.
Il participait faire SOP.
He was not doing SOP. He never did SOP.
Pour moi, de mon l'esprit pensé, il pas jamais faire SOP à cause inspecteur Flore qui tient ça sécurité. Il t'amène prisonnier dans son office tous les jours. Il t'assise avec.
In my mind, he did not do the SOP because Inspector Floor, who was responsible for security, brought prisoners in his office, whereby he sat down with them.
Et ma première question, c'est quoi la porte sécurité, c'est non unauthorized person. Quoi qu'il appelle unauthorized person.
And the first thing that you see on the door is no unauthorized person. And what do you classify as an unauthorized person?
Et prisonnier, tu peux assister dans son office.
But
Et moi,
prisoners-
respecter mon parti pour ça, mais gagner SOP sorti de ça l'office.
But prisoners was sitting inside his office, so I expected not to receive an SOP from that
Les
particular
contrabandes, tu
office.
peux gagner donner avec prisonnier.
Contrabands were being given to prisoners.
Et il y a un sa sécurité, si on est en prison, là, il y a envie.
And
Tu
he-
sorti qui met là, il y a envie. Est-ce que ça, aujourd'hui, nous pour la guerre, au SOP, si tu en as parti en an?
And he has
Sécurité,
someone
la clé prison.
who was responsible for the security could enter and leave the prison premises as and when he wanted, and even left with prisoners as well. And is that what we are going to talk about now, having SOPs for things like that?
Et,
Chief George, we do understand what you are saying. We do understand. But the question is, why would Inspector Ivan come here and tell us that there was no SOPs?
de son
This
unit,
is, this is
de son
this
unit,
is what I'm trying to
de
establish.
son
his
unit,
unit,
tu n'as pas,
there
à
was
cause
none.
ici dans sécurité.
So he
Because
was
in
not.
security.
Ah, sorry. Okay, so he was not writing SOPs.
Il y en a SOPs qui tu commences à travailler là, nous, moi, Clé, mon ciel, lui, nous, assisé, nous commençons à travailler là, SOP.
There was SOPs that
Il
we
y en a,
started to
le
work
visite,
on.
le visitation, le search, le ban les autres composants, et même, ça est capable de gagner à checker avec l'Office Human Rights.
Whereby we sat down together with CI Rina and Mr. Nicola and myself and discussed about the different components such as visitation and other components, and I have proof of that.
À cause even Human Rights, Mr. George from Ombudsman, si met la phase de habut, quand nous pouvons besoin d'un SOP when it's come to security.
And even Mr. George from the Human Rights, the Ombudsman,
When did
speak of that effect and told us that we needed to have SOPs in place for security.
I think there's confusion there because you said human rights and then you said Mr.
Mr.
George
Ombudsman,
Robert.
I'm from
Ombudsman.
Ombudsman, Mr. George, plus Human Rights, à cause de tout
Okay.
ensemble.
No, because you didn't say plus. You say Mr.
Yeah.
the human rights, Mr.
Yes.
Robert, ombudsman. So
Okay. Okay, let's leave this one here, yeah?
Sorry, but before you leave it, I need to understand something. So SOP is the standard operating
Standing order,
procedure.
yes.
So it's like a manual,
Yes.
right? I heard you saying so many times you didn't receive. You meant receiving these SOPs from who?
Non, chaque unit,
Oh.
je te supposé, on a d'autres SOP qui sont servis.
Each unit should have the SOPs that they use.
Et
Okay.
tu en as SOPs qui en a.
And there were units that had SOPs.
Et nous sommes besoin d'assiser ensemble, faire l'amendement à cause que tout est changé, il y a une révolution.
We had to sit down together and make amendments because things change. There's revolution,
Okay.
evolution.
evolution.
Et ben unit qui tu n'as pas, nous sommes besoin d'assiser, comment se travaille là.
And the units that had none, we had to sit down and start working on it.
Sécurité tient unit pour nous travailler là, à cause tu n'as pas de l'existence.
Security was a unit for us to work on because there was none in existence.
Okay, so by the time you left prisons, there was no SOP for security.
Il y en a.
Okay.
There are.
They are.
Oui, il y en a, mais seulement, il y en a ben, les autres composants, à cause de mon magasin, là, moi, je peux aller, moi, je commence à travailler le SOP scan machine, qui m'a pour opérer scan machine en bas sécurité.
But there are other components because I recall when I was leaving, I was working on how to operate scan machines under the
Okay,
security.
Sorry, I just want to understand. I think it's a yes or no. Were they? Was there a standard operating procedure (SOP), a written SOP for the security by the time you left prison?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were there other areas or other departments that did not have standard operating procedures?
I know that record office, they have it. For the other unit, they do have it, but they were working on the amendment.
So working on updating.
Yes, updating it.
So if a senior security officer from MONTAGNE comes here and says we don't have a standard operating procedure as a security department, that person would be lying. Is that what you are saying?
Je ne peux pas pour dire service à la langue, mais seulement ils assis ensemble, ils fait en est-ce que les autres disent SOPs, pas de comprendre.
I would not use the word lying, but they sat together and they did it, unless when the word SOP was used, they did not understand.
No, they did understand that we are talking about a standard operating procedure, a manual. They said we do not have.
But you know that security is the heart of a prison?
Yeah, that's why we
you
are
know that
surprised.
security is the heart of the public?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason we're supposed to have, and I was not expecting record to have the SOPs. Looking for the security, how come a prison existing since 2006 don't have an SOPs?
That's
For
why
me, it's something I was like...
So what I just want is a clear evidence from you that either says yes, there is a standard operating procedure for security department.
Yes, sir.
There is, and it's written.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. CP, earlier in answering to the question of Commissioner Justice, we were talking about firearms in the prison. Yeah. Okay. And you said you do not remember exactly the use of the firearms according to the Prisons Act. Yeah. But if I may remind you, see if you agree with me that it brings back memories on the use of firearm. It says that no firearms will be used to kill anybody in prison, and it would be to fire warning shots and only to prevent inmates from escaping. I think you've seen this one.
About key clause sign?
Under which clause is that?
I'll tell you in a minute. And the second one talks about no officer shall use any firearms if not from the order of a senior officer.
Yes.
Okay, so
this one I know. This one, yes.
This one is fine, yeah? Now, if I may ask you, what were the procedures of issuing firearms to the people that were securing the perimeter of the prison? What procedure was in use? Again, this is, I suppose, a SOP that would talk about how to issue firearms and ammunitions. Could you just talk a little bit about this?
Je ne peux pas dire much là, mais seulement respecter Ivan même avec PC David, il est capable de venir expliquer le procédure qui a fait, qui a issues firearm, ça ben dit mon and ou besoin connaître si ça des officiers is certified pour use un firearm.
I would not be able to say exactly how, but Inspector Ivan and PC David would be able to say about how it should be used.
Et deuxièmement, les autres besoin qu'on a qui m'a monter, démonter un firearm.
And secondly, they will have to know how to mount and dismount a firearm.
Ils ont besoin qu'on ait location exacte, pareil non AK-47, ils ont besoin qu'on ait pour dire AK-47 nous pas entrer avec inside the prison.
And for example, they will have to know what types of firearms you are allowed to enter inside the prison with. For example, AK-47 should not be inside.
les autres connaissent pour dire, les besoin servir AK-47 au nid de périmètre prison. Avait dit, en dehors, prison.
And they know that they
Ça
only
m'a
have
pas
to
officier
use
connaît.
AK-47 outside of the prison in the perimeter. This my officers are aware of.
Ça, les officiers qui m'ont cause là, mon ex-officers qui prison officer.
These officers that I'm referring to are ex-officers which are prison officers.
Et là, restant, ouais, pendant qu'il y a la prison, il y a Braina, Goulagil, qui nous dit non-lethal.
And the other weapons that we have currently available at the prison also are the non-lethal weapons.
Et pas beaucoup, à cause mon pas ouais nécessité, à cause il devait être dans la quantité weapons nos prisons, de mon l'état, il n'a pas beaucoup.
And it's not a lot. I do not see a necessity as to why there should be a lot of weapons in the prison. During my time, there was not that much.
Et quelquefois, il y avait un plus de prison, si maman il y a eu training.
Maybe there would be more in the prison premises if the officers receives more training.
Et ça, il training continue.
And that should be a continuous training.
Okay, so am I right to say that the AK-47s with live bullets were normally deployed on the perimeter of the prison, on the towers
Yes.
that you had around the prison?
Yes.
How many towers did you have?
No, 6 towers.
6
We
towers.
have 6 towers.
So you were in the necessity of 6, I would say, 6 AK-47s, maybe one more as spare if one
Yes.
gets damaged or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many AK-47s were there in your armory?
Mon pas pour m'imaginer, mais c'est soit 5, soit 7, mais c'est pas plus.
I would not recall, but either 5 or 7, not more.
So this is what you recall.
Yes.
Okay. But I would bring it to our attention that there were quite a lot of AK-47s inside the armory. Inside the armory, there were more AK-47s in there than 5 or 6.
The right person to answer that question is PO Corporal David or Tango 1, Kaki, Sergeant Kaki, ou soit Inspector Ivan lui-même.
Okay. So what I'm trying to imply, CP, is that you had officers that were working below you that were not providing you with proper information. You were there, but they were not providing you with proper information in order for you to carry out a proper job.
Et ça, l'information qui m'a gagné avec les autres.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Qui n'ont pas côté vers AK-47, ils sortent, moi pas connaître moi.
Information
Quand on gagne l'information, moi pas pour connaître aussi.
I received from them, and where those 20 AK-47 comes from, where you got your information, I do not know from where you got that.
No, CP, I never mentioned 20. I said there were more.
Quelquefois, moi qui mal entendu, c'est moi
Seven,
m'entends 20.
Maybe I heard it wrongly
Okay.
and heard 20.
Okay? But I think you were not being given the proper information.
Mais c'est moi, il y a 5 à 7, mais c'est moi pas plus. Ça qui m'a gagné informé.
There were 5 to 7, not more. That is what I was informed.
Okay. Now, CP, when like in all forces, yeah, I suppose in the police force as well, it works this way. Before people go out on duty, there is a document which is called the Part 1 Order, which is written to deploy personnel on each post, and if they are carrying firearms, then the firearms is being given to them. And obviously there is a briefing every time that there is a change of duty in any location. There is a briefing that is given to the officers that are going on duty. Were you aware if this was being done at the prison, or was it just that the officers came took the weapons and just went to the location of work, and you were given the impression that they knew exactly what they had to do.
Si zot pou fè, zot pou mè di nan l'occurrence.
If they had to do it, they would put it in the occurrence book.
Et zis Nepalais qui peut servir AK-47, l'État qui m'a monté dans la prison.
It was only the Nepali officers who were using AK-47 while I was at prison, no Seychellois.
This one I understand, but were they given a brief prior to go on the respective posts? Reason why I'm saying this, maybe you as the CP had received certain information that were vital to the prison security, and it was important that the people working on the towers, they should have known. Yeah. Now, if they are not given any briefing, they would be there on their post and not knowing what was going on. Were they at least given a brief every evening, to be able to tell them, look, this is your duty, you are working there, this is what's going to happen, this is your duties and responsibilities at that time that you are working. I think it is, even if somebody says that, oh, I know, but it is it should be a repetitive briefing to everybody.
Mais seulement mon connaître ce qu'il fait, par 16 ans kaki, from me parler à cause de qu'il peut brief sur un officer tous les jours.
But I know
this I know, it peut faire.
That it was done by Sergeant Kaki because he was briefing his officers every day, and this I know that it was done.
Okay, now.
Okay, we are running late for lunch.
Just last one.
Before I.
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay. Yeah, before I keep on, if there are questions that can wait into the session before lunch, please. But if you want to,
maybe just to finish with this.
All right. Okay.
Okay. CP, in 2018, yes, you were not there as well. In 2018, there was this recommendation by the inquest that was made with relevance to the riot that took place at MONTAGNE POSÉE in 2016. But the report came out in 2018. And one of the recommendations that was set in this document was to reduce the amount of live weapons in the prison. So that shows you that there were more than 6 or 7 weapons. But were you made aware of this? Maybe just to ask you, were you aware of this recommendation that was there when you took over duty?
No.
I know there was somebody previous. In 2018, there was somebody else. But were you made aware of this document?
Non, je ne connais pas sa recommandation qui peut causer là, mais c'est maman entendu le temps peut questionner là dans l'état commission.
No, I did not know about the recommendations that you are talking about, but I heard you while you were asking questions about it during this commission.
C'est ma sa recommandation qui gagne fait par commission qui fait l'enquête de sa affaires.
But that recommendation was done by the commission who investigated in the matter.
Et encore, il y a procédure pour faire. C'est une recommandation et pas la loi.
Again, a procedure that needs to be done is that first off, a recommendation is not a law.
Et pour les venir la loi, ou pour besoin amène code gouvernement pour un gouvernement adopter.
For it to become a law, it has to be brought to the government for the government to adopt it.
Et là, c'est plus facile pour amener devant l'Assemblée nationale pour amener quelque chose devant.
And from there, it would be easier to bring it to the National Assembly to be able to bring it forward. And that was not done.
Et moi, quoi, il y a une bonne recommandation.
And I think that it's a good recommendation.
So you are telling me that a recommendation which was done by this inquest should have been brought to reduce the amount of firearms in the prison, should have been brought to the National Assembly.
Mon question c'est, mon pas envie de demander une question à cause de mon question, mais seulement l'issue ici, c'est recommandation qui fait sens pour le pays. À cause que sa commission pas fait l'emphase, mettre un emphasis là, pour les autres capables de faire sa recommandation passée à la loi. Et les autres lever amène ça à cause de la commission, l'État fait un rapport, il amène devant le gouvernement les a adopté.
I do not want to ask you questions since you are the one asking questions, but if that was a recommendation that made sense for the country, why did they not push to bring it forward and put more emphasis on it? Since it was a commission, they should have emphasized more about it.
2018, moi, non, qui est là, non?
2018, if I recall, it was you who were there.
Okay.
Because in the commission as well, in this inquest, yeah, the people that wrote the inquest and recommendations, there was one part that said that there was a person that passed away, Mr. Banan, and that the government had to pay damages to the families and whatever it is. But this never went to the National Assembly. It was something that was done and compensated the family. Now, the thing is, when a recommendation is done, it is just for the purpose of working on the issue that is there.
Yes.
So, the problem is that there was a minister as well. There's always been a minister
Yes.
working on the prison. And as Commissioner Justice just said, this should have been brought to the attention of the minister to let him know that this is what is written, and I think you, as the Commissioner of Prisons, this is what you are recommending. But again, I would say this was again before you,
Yes.
and it came out in 2018. So you never saw it?
I never
in regards of ça.
saw or was never aware during that time with regards to that.
Et il fait sens, ça qu'on peut dire.
And it makes sense what you are saying.
Et 2018, sa commission besoin de ça over et qui ça dit monde qui n'a voulu faire ça, il pas les autres commission là, dans recommandation, que autres parlement côté sa président et sa président. Président voit côté sa ministère responsable, ça bout mon pas connaître côté qui pris qui mon pas pour répondre question là.
In 2018, you will have to ask the question. That commission had to bring the report to the person that made them do that commission in the first place, and that would be the president during that time. And then afterwards, it should be brought to the minister for further procedures. I do not know from that line from where along the way it got stuck or it did not reach to where it should be, but.
I would just like, because as a lawyer, I would tell you that government has a lot of policies, recommendations. These are not law. I agree with you. But sometimes government has a lot of policies, and they act according to the policies. Obviously, if it is challenged later in court, then the court will state that the policy is not law, so you cannot enforce that. A recommendation is not law, so you can enforce that. But I'm sure, had you been made aware of that report, then that could have been a guide for you as to how to operate.
Non, je pense que je suis aware, mais seulement si the right person pour capable cause là, si tu es aware, offre pour monsieur sentence, vu que monsieur Thierry dit mon parler qui là. À cause de M. Tiran, il vient, M. Sertan, ça vient moi.
I am not aware, but the right person for you to speak about this issue to should be Mr. Saint-Ange, I believe, because Mr. Tiran said that he was not there. I believe the order was Mr. Tiran, Mr. Saint-Ange, and then came myself.
Okay. Is there any burning question for now? Otherwise, we break for lunch. Okay, I think let us break for lunch and be back at 2:10. So we are having a 30-minute lunch break.
That's less than 30 minutes.
Looks like we still have